Hello and a very warm welcome. Thanks for tuning in to your favorite news destination. You're watching In Your Interest with me, Kabir Naqvi. Two focus segments. Of course, the West Bengal voter list that has now turned into a full-blown democratic conspiracy and controversy. We're going to talk about that and very crucial talks. The first after 1993 between Israel and Lebanon that's soon going to take place in Washington. But before that, the top headlines we're tracking for you. Prime Minister Narendra Modi speaks to US President Donald Trump. The call reportedly lasted 40 minutes, the first phone conversation after the failed US-Iran talks in Islamabad. The centre proposes constitution amendment to increase Lok Sabha seats to 850. Women's reservation draft bill shared with the members of parliament. 815 seats for state and 35 for union territories. Samrat Chaudhary to become Bihar's next chief minister as the Nitish Kumar chief minister era comes to an end. Samrat was elected as BJP's legislature party leader ahead of taking the oath as the chief minister of the state. Nine dead, several injured in boiler explosion at Vedanta power plant in Chhattisgarh. Chief Minister Vishnu Deo Sai orders probe and assures strict action against those responsible. The International Monetary Fund forecast India and its growth at 6.5% for 2026 and 2027, showcasing strong momentum and lower US tariff rates. Ahead of those crucial talks in Washington, big setback for Israel amid the Iran war as Italy now suspends defense agreement with Tel Aviv, cites the current situation for this move. French President Emmanuel Macron urges resumption of talks in phone calls with Iranian and US presidents. The West Bengal voter list shock. Lakhs of names simply deleted or went missing. And those that have been voting for years now have to prove that they even exist, running from pillar to post where the queues don't end, the documents don't end, but there is no answer to their queries as well. Let's break this down for all our viewers. In the heart of West Bengal, 6 ordinary citizens have taken a step that no one should ever have to take. They have written to President Draupadi Murmu asking for euthanasia. Amongst them is the retired headmistress who spent her life teaching in a state government aided school. And their only fault, well, their names have vanished from the electoral rolls after the special intensive revision or the S.I.R exercise. They can no longer vote in the impending and coming assembly elections, and they are being asked to prove their own citizenship just to get their name back on the voters' list. Imagine serving your country for 17 years in the Air Force, carrying a diplomatic passport and representing India on the global stage, only to wake up one morning and be told you are no longer on the voter list. That's the story of Mohammad Shamim Akhtar, a former wing commander in the Indian Air Force. And this isn't just about a few names missing from a list. This is about a massive S.I.R exercise that has fundamentally altered the electoral map of West Bengal just weeks before the state goes to polls. The numbers are quite staggering as well. The total electorate has shrunk by over 11%. That's about nearly 91 lakh names deleted from the rolls. The Supreme Court was approached for relief. The petitioners wanted deleted voters with pending appeals to be allowed to cast their ballots. At least the frozen rolls, the dateline for that to be extended. But the court called the plea premature and refused any interim order. It said the right to vote is important. It's quite sentimental. It's the highest patriotic fervor that can be meted out to a citizen. But the matter should go to the appellate tribunals first. But the reality on the ground is that the process of fixing these mistakes has 34 lakh people have filed appeals, but the system continues to struggle. There are only 19 tribunals to handle the load, and each one is looking at more than 1 lakh cases. These tribunals, these appellate tribunals, started working just 10 days before the polls. And many voters say they received no notice before their names were struck off from the adjudication list. Some were not even given any reasons of why their names were struck down. Now, they must prove their identity all over again. The rolls have already been frozen. So even those who win their appeals in these appellate tribunal cases may not get to vote this time around.
S.I.R में तो मेरा नाम उठ गया, मेरा मम्मी पापा का डॉक्यूमेंट्स डाल के, मेरा दादा दादी का भी डॉक्यूमेंट्स डाल के हो गया, लेकिन मेरा हस्बैंड का जो मेरा हस्बैंड है, मेरा जेठ है, वो दोनों भाई का ही नाम बद गया। वही डॉक्यूमेंट्स डाल के सबका हो चुका है, लेकिन इन लोग का दोनों भाई का ही सिर्फ बाद गया। हम लोग जितना बार बुलाया, जितना बार रिजेक्ट किया है, उतना बार गई हूँ, लेकिन क्या क्या डॉक्यूमेंट्स लगेगा नहीं लगेगा, जिन लोग को नहीं आता है उन लोग को घर पे आके भी हम लोग को दिखाना पड़ेगा कि इस तरह से करो। हम लोग उन लोग का पास भी गई हूँ कि किस तरह से क्या क्या डालना पड़ेगा डॉक्यूमेंट्स, वो भी डाल चुकी हूँ, लेकिन कोई किसी को नहीं बता रहा है कि क्या क्या लगेगा कि नहीं लगेगा।
आधार कार्ड है, पैन कार्ड है, राशन कार्ड है, सब कुछ है, मगर देता वोट के नाम काट दिया है। हम तो यहाँ से बहुत दिन से है, ये कुल भाई है मेरा छोटा छोटा, ये हमारे सामने बड़ा हुआ है। हम चाह रहे हैं जिस जो है हमारे देश के नहीं है उसको निकाल दो।
मेरा नाम पहला लिस्ट नहीं है तो दूसरा लिस्ट आया था, और पूरे गांव में कम से कम 50 आदमी का नाम नहीं है, डिलीट हो गया। फिर दूसरा लिस्ट आया तो दूसरा लिस्ट में 50 आदमी का नाम डिलीट हो गया। गांव में बहुत लोग का नाम डिलीट हो गया, लेकिन उसका डॉक्यूमेंट सब कुछ था। 2002 लिस्ट में नाम था, उसका दादा पिताजी का नाम 2002 लिस्ट में नाम था, लेकिन उसका भी नाम था, लेकिन उसका नाम भी डिलीट हो गया।
Those are just some of the concerns. The Election Commission has defended the entire exercise. It says that the deletions are in line with what has happened in the other states. It calls the process usual and not an exception for West Bengal. Yet, questions remain about the transparency. Many voters feel the software-driven scrutiny lacked clear-cut explanations. Trust in the system has taken a massive hit. The political stakes just as high. In at least 44 constituencies from the 2021 elections, the number of deleted voters actually exceeds the winning margin, something that the Supreme Court also highlighted. And these are seats where the TMC won 24 out of those 40 plus seats and the BJP won 20. In a state where elections are fought on razor-thin margins, a 10% reduction in the voter base could very well decide who forms the next government. An esteemed set of panelists with us on the broadcast, and the big questions that we're trying to decode. How can 19 tribunals realistically process 34 lakh appeals in time for citizens to exercise their fundamental right to vote? In seats where deletions exceeded the previous winning margins, how can the upcoming election results be seen as truly representative of the original electorate? And when decorated veterans, retired educators feel forced to seek euthanasia over the loss of their voting rights, has the administrative process lost its sense of empathy and justice in this case? And much more. Radhika Bhattacharya Shah, spokesperson for the BJP West Bengal, with us on the broadcast. Shubhankar Bhattacharya, political analyst, with us on the broadcast. And Nirmalya Mukherjee, senior journalist, also with us on the broadcast. Radhika ji, once again, I am compelled to ask you these questions because the opposition on the national rubric, I know the BJP is the principal opposition in the state of West Bengal, and the civil society groups and civil society activists, they're calling it a case of systemic disenfranchisement. If lakhs of genuine voters are struggling to prove their identity again, is the process itself not flawed? You heard some of those voices, didn't you? And retired veterans, people who have been mapped. And the Supreme Court also says, if the win margin is less than 2%, what happens if 10 to 15% of the electorate is unable to vote? What kind of a situation does that lead to?
Well, I'll begin by saying that electoral roll correction is not exclusion. It is a purification of democracy. Now, the S.I.R is a routine legally mandated exercise under the Election Commission and happens across India, not specific to West Bengal. The objective is, of course, clear, and we've discussed it many times over. It is to remove duplicates. It is to identify the deceased. It is to understand the shifted voters. And of course, last but not the least, come to know who the illegal entries were. Now let us say every revision cycle typically sees, let's say, 2 to 5% deletions, dead, duplicate, or let's say migrated voters. And then a 3 to 6% of, let's say, additions, new voters or corrections. And in a high migration state like the West Bengal that we're discussing today, of course, a higher churn is expected. And and booth level officers conduct door-to-door verifications. We know that the public claims and objections, window, and if names are missing, the system allows correction. If fake names are included and exist, the system removes them. And
that's all right, Radhika ji. That's all absolutely right. The numbers will speak for themselves, and of course, once the result is clear, in the first week of May, we'll have a better picture of who stands out to gain from this entire cleanup exercise. Is it a cleanup? Is it electoral engineering? We'll find that out. But my understanding and my question is, how can one be absolutely sure that the special intensive revision has not hurt even a single genuine voter, or even a single genuine voter has not been wrongly excluded? We've got so many of those cases. Those that were mapped in 2002, which was when the last S.I.R. exercise took place. Take a look at, S.I.R. is not unique to West Bengal. 13 states and union territories is where the special intensive revision has taken place. And in the Supreme Court yesterday, the justice clearly pointed out these logical discrepancies and, various categories that have been formed are absolutely unique to West Bengal. Why only in West Bengal then?
I would first, of course, I know you've asked me a question, I remember to answer it, but I would like to also comment on the euthanasia narrative that is now...
We'll come to that, Radhika ji. First, let's finish the brass tacks first.
Okay. Let us now accept that the Election Commission of India is a constitutional authority and it conducts elections throughout the country and is respected for the scale and, let's say, fairness of the process, which is transparent, is multi-layered verification, open to political party scrutiny. Now, we must know that genuine voters will be protected. Fake entries, of course, on the other hand, will be rejected. Now, if genuine names are missing, which they are, I'm not going to sit here as the BJP spokesperson and say or deny the fact that some names have gone missing. They can file for correction and these names must be restored immediately.
But then they're not going to be able to impact. You're absolutely right, ma'am. I again agree with what you're saying. It's just that even if the appellate tribunal says that, okay, fine, these are good to go names, these are verified names, the electoral roll has already been frozen. How do those names then get added to this election? And taking away somebody's right to vote, it's almost like it's very sentimental. That's what the Supreme Court itself suggested. Those are quotes from the Supreme Court. It's very sentimental. It's very nationalistic. It's the highest level of patriotism that one can show. Their right to vote.
As I mentioned earlier, the intention of the Election Commission is not to see Indians being sidelined, particularly those whose paperwork is in order. Now, it is my democratic right as an Indian, and it's the democratic right of every other Indian, and particularly now in Bengal, to be able to cast one's vote. Now, when there is a system, there's also a corrective system in place. To say that these people have lost their chance to vote and they will get to vote 5 years later is incorrect. The Election Commission has put into place the restoration of these names and to look into all the claims that have been filed. I know that there is a political motivation for our opponents, and I believe that this outrage is not about votes, it's about vote banks. And of course, the opposition narrative is to create distrust before elections.
Madam, I'm trying to do my job here. I need to. We're not bothered about the next election. We're talking about this impending election. We need to know what's happening over here. I'm going to come back to you, Radhika ji. Shubhankar Bhattacharya, political analyst, also with us on the broadcast. Shubhankar, you know, the BJP argues that this is a necessary cleanup of the voter rolls. We shouldn't be worried about exclusion because the ECI is doing its job. But we've seen the massive trust deficit between the ECI and the ruling dispensation in the state of West Bengal, the Trinamool Congress. Is the TMC opposing reform? Is the TMC raising genuine concerns about execution? What's actually at play here?
I completely agree that this is a very necessary step that the ECI has taken, this S.I.R, very necessary for BJP to actually fight this election. This was very, very necessary. Why I tell you? Because as you say that, see, this is nothing but the purification of the entire voter roll. Is this a purification of voter rolls? All you mean to say? I just was hearing Radhika ji a moment ago, and it's all like that. You know, these 34 lakh people whose fate is hanging in balance is all they actually deserve. No, ma'am, it's not. When you are practicing a fair and free election in the country, you have to pay heed to every voter who is legitimate and has a right to vote. That is the very first thing. When your Chief Election Commission goes onto the press and says, and he has, narrated the instances where the previous election commissions have taken all pain to even reach out to one single voter. And here you are talking about 34 lakh voters being, putting in hand, and you are saying, what's so new about it? So what? They can vote in other election. Even if it is said by, the Supreme Court, it is very unfortunate actually. It is very unfortunate. Because in this, what we call ourselves a Vishwaguru, and we still cannot afford to have an election where we can give each and every voter a right to choose their own government.
But then, Mr. Bhattacharya, what do you say about the justices that took on the case yesterday? The justices that were hearing this case, they said, I mean, the load on these, electoral returning officers is absolutely huge. The AEROs, the EROs, it's so huge, isn't it? Even if they have to go through 1,000 documents a day, if they get even 70% of accuracy right, it should be deemed as excellent. This is what the Supreme Court says.
See, if we intentionally close our eyes and then we, start crying that we can't see, it's not the problem with the eyes. It's with our intentions. The problem is that the ECI net, while we are, talking this out on a national platform, still the ECI net is not properly functioning. Still the SE net, your app is hanging continuously. This should not happen. This should not have happened. Number two, the thing is, when you are choosing it, you are using an AI, which is actually the entire data is not completely updated. Where the difference of Mukherjee and Mukhopadhyay and the similarities between it is not being considered. I can write my name as Shubhankar Bhattacharya. I can also call my name as Shubhankar Bhattacharya or Shubhankar Bhattacharya. That doesn't, create any kind of difference.
So you're saying that this is something that the AI and the system is unable to pick up, and which is why we have this massive category of logical discrepancies, because the spelling is either out of proportion or you have a different name.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. So at least it should have been heard. You should give a proper, we should have arranged a solution to it to at least give a proper hearing.
Fair enough.
Do those people deserve a hearing
Understood.
or not?
You spoke about Mukhopadhyay or Mukherjee. I think that's the right segue for me to go towards Mr. Mukherjee. Radhika ji, I'm going to come to you. I'm going to come to you in just a bit.
Ganguly, Chattopadhyay is Chatterjee, Bhattacharya and Bhattacharya are all the same. You can go on and on and on.
Yeah,
there has been such discrepancies.
Mr. Bhattacharya, we got your point. Mr. Mukherjee,
Some
we're seeing massive numbers here. Look at what the BJP spokesperson is saying. Look at what the political analyst is saying. Lakhs of deletions, lakhs of appeals. And even if these 30 lakh plus names get their verification done, they're not going to be affecting this upcoming election because the voter rolls are frozen. Put this in perspective for all the viewers out there. How big is this crisis really compared to the previous electoral revisions? This political conflict that's come to light, how is this shaping the upcoming election, sir?
See, first I'll tell you, there's a very thin line.
Yeah.
Because I'll go straight into the court observations. Now, you know about the court observations. I am leaving aside ECI because the LD part, the logical discrepancy part, and the devoters part has been dealt by the judicial officers and the Supreme Court. So, whatever I have to say, I'll focus purely what the Supreme Court had said, and they have very aptly put that vote, voter, and voting rights, these three are separate in this particular case of West Bengal. So if somebody is not voting this time, he or she does not lose its voting right. You can debate on it.
Okay, yeah,
Right,
fair enough.
I'll tell you, you can always debate on that. But Supreme Court is very categorical. Now, out of 91 lakh, 27 lakh have been deleted. They are devoters. And if you go into the 58 lakh, the first part, out of that 27 lakh are dead people. So 27 lakh is dead, 27 lakh is deleted. So that makes it 54 lakh. So the main deletion that has gone into picture is Election Commission in the first part, second part, the judiciary. So if that is the case, Election Commission cannot influence the judiciary, and neither the judiciary can impose certain things on the Election Commission, maintaining its autonomy. So you have to be very clear on that. In West Bengal, what the TMC and the BJP, these are the two parties. The narrative has been set in that way. They are fighting. So BJP is saying with an internal report which I have with me, they say that this is not going to affect, this is going to affect rather 134 constituencies. And another report that comes up with TMC, they say that whatever be the case, 149 constituencies are not going to be affected. They are crossing the magic figure. And yet after that, TMC is fighting for the rights. Mamata Banerjee has been able to save only 20%. She said that it will be over her dead body. She will not allow any name to be deleted. Lot of things she had said, these are all political things. She has the right to say.
So you're saying the exercise has already been taken place and the political narrative and the rhetoric has been set in motion. You've differentiated the vote, the voter and the voting right.
I'll tell you, originally 1.5 crore was given notices. Mind you one thing, in the last two elections, I do not know whether you have the information, in the last elections of 2016 and 2021, 1 crore 12 lakh people and 1 crore 23 lakh people did not vote. So, even after that, voting took place. So, what will happen to these voters? How will these voters be pulled in by these two parties or other parties? That is a big question in politics. I am not interested in that. In the SIR part, the most important part, Mamata Banerjee said that we have won the case because we have shunted out Election Commission and the judiciary has come into picture. So if I put up anything now, I have to put up everything against the judiciary. Firstly, she was saying, you mark her word, she is an astute politician. The first thing she said, I will not allow any deletions. Now she is saying, I will not allow any driving out, any exclusions. From deletion to exclusion. So she is giving a hint.
Right. Understood. Mr. Mukherjee, I'm going to come back to you. I'm going to come back to you. Radhika ji, your rejoinder to what?
I have one more.
To what? I'll come back to you. Mr. Mukherjee, I'll come back to you. Let me go across to, Radhika Bhattacharya. Radhika, critics are also saying that this logical discrepancy, something that Mr. Mukherjee and Mr. Bhattacharya have already spoken about, this filter has unfairly targeted voters over minor errors, and it's technologically overriding human verification, something that Mr. Bhattacharya also pointed out. I've got some data with me. You know, civil society activists say that this is deliberate targeting of Muslim voters. This is not revision, it's rewriting of the electoral rolls. In Nandigram, 25% are Muslim votes and 95% votes have been deleted from there. Muslim areas like Malda, like Dinajpur, Murshidabad, the Mathura dominated areas, they've seen the massive amount and the most amount of names being deleted. How does the Bharatiya Janata Party respond to that, which is clearly for the S.I.R exercise here?
Now, first, I think what I'd like to actually mention and comment on is that the Election Commission is a body, a legal body, constitutional body, and a rightful body of our country.
Yeah.
So to treat it as our enemy, as a body that is out to get West Bengal, that is particularly aiming at removing names of Muslims from the border areas, etc., I think is misplaced. No genuine voter will be denied the right to vote. If a name is missing, there's a clear legal process to restore it before polling. Now,
the appellate tribunal started working just 10 days before the elections, just 10 days before the voting, ma'am.
If a genuine vote name is missing, the voter can apply through Form 6, and there's a fast track correction mechanism that exists.
And then the appellate tribunal case just keeps on going on for ages. The elections are supposed to take place on the 23rd of this month. How will you guarantee to this person who is afraid, apprehensive about their vote getting deleted, that their vote is not going to get deleted? Like Mr. Mukherjee said, the vote, the voter and the voting rights are three separate different things. You might get your voting rights, just not this time around. But this time around is what we're worried about. This is the election that people are apprehensive and anxious about. How do we deal with that anxiety?
Why should anyone be particularly anxious about any particular election? For us, elections come every few years. We show the same enthusiasm or lack of it every 5 years. So this one cannot, just because Mamata Banerjee, the Honorable Chief Minister of West Bengal, is making a big thing out of these, and we know that many of these corrections are genuine, many of the deletions are genuine, and most of them have taken place in Malda, Murshidabad, 24 Parganas. The question again, I will say, is who put it in the first place? So that's why, if it was incorrectly put in the first place, it has now got deleted in the right. But let me just finish. I've collected some thoughts. We know
very quickly, ma'am. I need to go across the board once more.
It's a time window for correction, and there will be a public display of draft rolls for verification. So deletion is not the end of the road. It's a part of a process that includes correction. And yes, if genuine names are missing, it is a serious issue, and it must be fixed immediately. And also,
but that's the point. It's not being fixed immediately. I mean, either I'm getting the story wrong here, or I'm not being able to put my point across, ma'am. The idea is that these genuine voters, they might just miss out on their votes this time around. It's not about the upcoming election. It's not about the elections in the future. It's about the upcoming election. Why the exercise took place so close on the heels of this election. If we had more time, maybe these deletions or these genuine voters and the entire fiasco around it could have been sorted out. But I need to move on here as well. Mr. Bhattacharya, what's your opinion before I go on to Mr. Mukherjee?
See, one thing I must say, that the way Radhika ji has put it up over here, I'm a damn fan of her voice intonation and the way her diction has come up. But with the data, she's again and again quoting the very same thing, that it is not a big problem, that most of the data are correct. See, we are not talking about the data which have gone through. We have the problem with those legitimate people who cannot practice the right to vote. That is the problem. The problem is not with who are already getting...
but sir, the Election Commission says multiple opportunities were given to verify the details. Multiple opportunities were given.
No. See, this is the problem. You have set 19 appellates over there. 19 appellates were set. But out of the 19 appellates, the 10 appellates were not even having a proper furniture system over there to sit in. They couldn't even bring people up. The information among those people have not gone properly. So don't say that it has, a lot of, hearing has been given. No, we have done nothing for them actually. We actually hardly care for them, because till the time the election, see now the role of the election commission is just to conduct the election somehow. And to benefit whom? I'm not talking about benefiting a particular party or not, but you are not doing any good to the democracy if you are taking away right of a single legitimate voter over there. So this you cannot call anything. You can call it anything but a free and fair election. And the most I should say, I'm very it's a very confusing, and it's very unfortunate when you see the highest legal officers and the legal panel coming out and saying, oh, see, they can always have their rights, let this election go through. Why let this election go through? Will this election be called legitimate if, just because of this deletion, a big, a change is brought up? Will you be satisfied? Let that be any government. But is this election going to be complete if a single voter is denied his right to elect? If suppose there is a seat in which a person wins by only 2 votes or a single vote, will that seat be called legitimate? When can it lose its
why just the seat? Why just the seat? Why not the entire elections? I mean, there are going to be questions raised on the entire elections if something like that happens. But of course, you see, the draft rolls have now been frozen, Mr. Bhattacharya. I think we now need to, of course, look at the bigger picture here as well, so that this does not become a precedent. Mr. Mukherjee, quickly to wrap things up, completely run out of time, but I do want to give you a final say. Final 30 seconds. Sir, the Supreme Court, it heard the petition, it heard everything. It said that, there needs to be a robust appellate tribunal. This is the deviation from what's been happening in Bihar and the other states. You can't expect 100% accuracy from these election commission workers, but they did not want to interfere in all of this. What does this tell us? I mean, what should we read into how the Supreme Court reacted on this?
No, one thing we should remember is that these deletions, what has happened, it's basically a question of trust. So if you don't vote this time, naturally, that's the back route for NRC. So in the future, when NRC comes up, this might be used in getting me extricated from this country totally, that I am not a voter and I'm not a citizen of this country. That is an apprehension. I don't know whether it's true or not, but it is definitely an apprehension, keeping my ears on the ground. Secondly, what is the big problem here is that there have been deletions in 13 states. Gujarat and UP are the biggest deleters. Even Tamil Nadu has a big deletion. But why in Bengal? The difference is, the only problem is that the difference in votes between the BJP and the TMC is less, much less than the number of deletions. That is one political issue. So the deletion is around 91 lakhs, total 91 lakh voters gone. And the difference, which was 60 lakhs in 2021, has come down to 40 lakhs in 2024. That is the reason.
No, you're right. I think missing trust in the system is a big aspect over here. Mr. Mukherjee, I've completely run out of time here. I hope in which we could have spoken more on this.
One thing,
but
one very important aspect.
Sir, I've completely run out of time.
BJP has, they say, even if there was no S.I.R, even if there was no CID, ED or CBI, Mamta would have lost it. Forget the ED, CBI and S.I.R phenomenon.
Okay. So, all right, Mr. Mukherjee, I really need to wrap this up. The question is no longer just about missing names clearly. It's about the missing trust in the system, and we'll have to wait and find out as to what and how things really play out. Mr. Mukherjee, Mr. Bhattacharya, Mr. Mukherjee and Madam Radhika Bhattacharya, many thanks for taking out the time. We're going to flip into a quick commercial breather here. On the other side, that very crucial meeting that's taking place in Washington. Don't go anywhere.